Hey guys, what's up? This is Alan coming to you again from Epik Solutions. And in this short video, I wanted to put out something that I think is beneficial to actually think about and potentially, if you're not already doing these kind of things in your day-to-day routine, maybe you could add it to it and see some change. I remember when I was in driver's ed, like a decade ago, and for some of you guys, it's like, wow, what a kid. But at the same time, I think one of the things that I learned was an acronym, and I don't really remember a lot, of huge key pinnacle things from driver's ed in high school. But one of the acronyms that I learned that I think not only applies to driving, but potentially to business promotion and running a business would be S.I.P.D.E, S-I-P-D-E. And I want to run through each one of those real quick. S.I.P.D.E, number one, S, right? S stands for search. You can think about, and I'll just allude as a metaphor between driving and also between running a business and promoting business and marketing and really driving forward for some sales. You have to deal with the search. When you're driving in a vehicle, search means that you're constantly looking around. You're looking for possibly somebody to come into your lane. You're looking for somebody to run a red light, stop sign. You're thinking about it. It's on your mind. It's something that you're consistently looking around, making sure that nothing's going to come up and catch you off guard. Now, how does that apply to marketing? Well, marketing has everything to do with searching. What do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, before you can sell something to customers, you have to know where the customers are, right? And when you know where the customers are, you know where to go. A lot of people spend unnecessary amounts of money, all kinds of things. I mean, from newspaper ads to radio announcements to TV commercials, and the list goes on and on and on. Not to say that some of those things aren't great, but overall, you can spend so much money so fast and you'll never really have a solid ROI, a return of investment. You'll have no way of keeping track of that. So when you're searching out your market, you're going to learn the market first. And then once you learn the market, then you know where you need to go and really exert a lot of your energy. So that's search. The second letter in the acronym is I. And this one's very important too, because not only do you have search, you have identify. Searching is where you're constantly looking. Identification, though, is when you lock in on your target and you know something's about to happen and you have to make a decision about it. And I'm not going to jump ahead. That's the next one coming up. But the I standing for being able to identify. Think about driving in a car. I'm looking, and all of a sudden I see something that's a potential issue or potential somewhere I need to maneuver over. Identifying that is number one above everything before you can make a plan or decision about any kind of determination of what you're going to do. By identifying, you are able to know exactly what you're dealing with. Now, how does this apply to the market? The market's the same way. If you throw all of your energy into just random nonsense forms of marketing and advertising, in yesterday's video I put out, you wouldn't try to sell a carton of milk, you wouldn't try to sell a gallon of milk, and you definitely wouldn't try to sell a cow to somebody who's lactose intolerant. But if you're really pushy and really insistent, you keep on trying to make that sale. What that looks like is that you only care about your product and your sales, not your customer base, which, to be honest, is what a lot of people are driven from. So paying attention to that is crucial when it comes to being profitable, but also to having that longevity and return of flow of return customers. And that's what we want to drive for. It's great if you have somebody come buy one of your products or your service one time, but based on the experience they receive, they may or may not return to you for the next time they need it. So that's important to think about. So identifying your potential clients, your market is the second part. After you've sought it out, you search for it, you identify it. Once you identify, you know where to go. Now, thirdly, in the acronym of S.I.P.D.E is the P, of course, and this is where it gets fun. This is predicting. Predicting can be hard or it can be simple. Predictions are based upon your experience, but also just upon your common knowledge. Now, back to the car. When we're driving, I'm searching, identify something that's maybe a potential issue. The P standing for prediction, I need to make a prediction about what I think is about to happen. Making that prediction, like I said, goes based on experience and knowledge. Once you have the experience, you're able to look at this and say, well, this certain market's probably going to react this way when this happens, or they're going to react to this product this way. I know I can sell X for this amount of money because in the past, and you see how that works. And if you're in a business, you know how that works. But that overall the prediction process is very important, because if a lot of people are even judgmental on the way that they treat their clients or their customers, meaning they don't really pay attention specifically to what has gone on in the past. They just have some preconceived notion or formulated thought process that I'm not going to promote this, or I'm not going to do this because of this. You have to get away from that. You have to make clear-cut predictions. If you make a prediction about somebody or some form of market, you better make sure, before anything else goes on, you better make sure that your predictions, quote unquote, come from actual informational based decisions about that market. A lot of people miss out on opportunities to market and to make some huge sales because they're so driven in opinion. And I've worked for businesses like that. They won't go to a certain demographic because they're racist. Are you crazy? They won't go to a certain area because they don't think the people there have money. You don't know who has money where. It doesn't matter what neighborhood they're in. It doesn't matter what color their skin is. And I'm saying this, and I know it's monotonous. You already know these things. But I'm pointing that out. I've seen people lose money because in some way, form, or fashion, they were ignorant about the predictions they made. Now, you have search, identify, predict. Fourthly is determine. Once I've sought it out, once I've identified where I'm going, once I've made a prediction about what I think is going to happen based upon facts and information, then it comes down to determining. Determination is probably the hardest thing aside from the next one, which I'll get to in a second, the E. Determination is where you actually put your game plan together. What am I going to do? Back to the car, right? So I've search, I identify a potential issue or potential something coming up, then I make a plan, and I'm going to predict what's going to happen based upon what I've sought out and what I've identified. So I predict what's about to happen, and then I have to determine. Prediction and determine are different. So you can make a prediction, but that doesn't necessarily impact the way that you determine or what route you go. But determination is different in the way that you actually have to make a plan. This is what I'm going to do. A lot of people have ideas. They talk about marketing. They talk about growing their business. They talk about getting their name out there. They talk about X, Y, and Z. You can talk about the whole alphabet, A through Z, but unless you make a concrete plan to actually get something out there for the market base to see, you're wasting your time. So determining is key. Once we've determined and we've made a plan, the fifth and last one is execution. Search, identify, predict, determine, and then execute. Execute, much different from the rest. Execution comes down to you being able, based on what I've sought out, what I've identified, what I'm trying to predict, what I've determined. Execution is the complete realm. It's the full circle. Execution is the full way of making sure that everything that I've come to this far, now I'm going to do something about it. Executing the plan. A lot of people, like I said earlier, they make plans, they make predictions, they get all this information together, and they simply lack the execution necessary to really make things happen. Execution on your part as being a business owner or someone who works for another business, you're trying to generate sales, you're trying to market your product better, do it in a way that is not only prosperous but is increasing productivity. You have to execute. So once you make that game plan, you have to execute. Back to the car. I've sought it out. I've identified it. I predict what I think is going to happen. I've determined what I'm going to do about it. Then, based upon my seeking, my identifying, my predicting, my determining, when I execute it, that's where you have to make the real call. Am I going to be able to execute what I have planned out? So once you're able to execute, that's where you see real things start happening. So, guys, I hope this is helpful. S.I.P.D.E, S.I.P.D.E as I call it. Search, identify, predict, determine, and then execute. Like I said, I learned that when I was younger in driver's ed, but I've never forgotten that acronym because I knew that it applied to so much more than simply just driving a car. It has a lot to do with life, but I think it also, as far as Epik Solutions is concerned and what I do, I think that's important for business owners to take time to learn about. Search, identify, predict, determine, execute. That's how you make a game plan. That's how you make it happen. So hopefully this is beneficial. And guys, if you're not already doing something for your own business, I don't care if it's a startup, if you work for somebody else, apply this. Maybe take this to your boss. If you are the boss, wake up. But maybe take this to your boss and say, hey, I think we need to look at this. Sit down with a game plan. And guys, one quick last note. Even if you don't own your own business, if you want to show value, let's say you want to have a raise, you want to get a raise, you want to pursue for a longevity purpose in that company, you want to really, to escalate, and you want to move up through the ranks and get to the top someday, you have to produce value to your company. Now, not every job setup is like this, where you have an opportunity to speak your opinion and talk about what you think. But if you do, go to your boss, tell them, hey, I think I can help our business grow. Lay it out in a very formatted form and step by step how it can happen. And that may take some homework on your part. You might have to put in some extra hours and some extra work, but I think you can do it. And then take that to your boss or whoever's in charge and say, hey, I've been working on this. And guys, when you do things like that and you can show your value, then we're getting somewhere. So guys, once again, this is Alan with Epik Solutions. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this, it's going to be, I'm doing this on Facebook Live too, but it's going to be uploaded to YouTube under Epik Solutions. You can look us up, and please subscribe to the page and like this video, even share this video if you don't mind. I'll continue to put out content just like this. I'm working with small business in the area. I've got 2 meetings here in like 20 minutes. I got to get going. But I hope that this is beneficial. And hey, you subscribe and like, and I'll keep putting it out, all right? Have a great day, guys.